Arteta has struck gold on Arsenal star, who's worth far more than Semenyo. With over half the season gone, things are looking pretty good for Arsenal. Mikel Arteta's side are top of the Champions League, through to the fourth round of the FA Cup, in the semi-final of the League Cup, and most importantly, 6 points clear at the top of the Premier League. The Gunners have looked far more convincing than their biggest title rivals, Manchester City, for much of the campaign, but it's still far too early to call, especially as Pep Guardiola's side have just spent £64 million on Antoine Semenyo. The former Bournemouth man was linked with Arsenal earlier this season, but there are other wide players the Gunners could recruit this year, and according to reports, they already have one worth millions more than Semenyo. Who Arsenal could sign instead of Semenyo? Now, while City's signing Semenyo is far from ideal for Arsenal, it's not the end of the world, especially when there appear to be a number of other wide players they could focus on this year. For example, RB Leipzig's highly rated Jan Diomande has been touted for a big money move to the Emirates earlier this month, and while he might not be a big name just yet, he could be a smart signing. After all, despite still being just 19 years old, the sensational gem, as dubbed by talent scout Jacek Kulig, has scored 7 goals and provided 4 assists in 16 games this season, totaling 1,041 minutes. That comes out to a brilliant average of a goal involvement every 1.45 games, or every 94.63 minutes. Another hugely promising winger linked with the North Londoners this month is Bradley Barcola. Reportedly, the Frenchman could be sold by Paris Saint-Germain this summer, and if that is the case, Arteta and co. should be all over him. Since the start of last season, he has scored 26 goals and provided 25 assists in 87 appearances, totaling 5,319 minutes. This comes out to an incredible average of a goal involvement every 1.70 games, or every 104.29 minutes, which lends plenty of credence to analyst Ben Mattinson's claim that he's one of the best left wingers in Europe. Finally, the Gunners have also been linked with Rafael Leao, who remains one of the most entertaining wingers in European football and has amassed a tally of 9 goal involvements in 15 games this season. In all, there are plenty of options for Arsenal to sign now Semenyo is out of the picture, and the club already have a wide attacker worth millions more than the City man in their ranks. The Arsenal star worth millions more than Semenyo. The first player most fans are going to think of when it comes to an Arsenal player worth millions more than Semenyo is likely Bukayo Saka. That would make sense, as the Englishman is the talisman of the club and arguably one of their best attackers. However, in this instance, the player is none other than Gabriel Martinelli, who has also been offered to Real Madrid. Yes, according to reports from Spain, the Gunners' Brazilian dynamo has been offered to Los Blancos if they lose Vinicius Jr. The report has also stated that sources close to the player have informed them that he's worth around €100 million, which is £87 million, or £23 million more than City paid for Semenyo. Now that might sound a tad absurd for a player that Arsenal fans have long been frustrated with, but perhaps it's not. Firstly, the former Ituano gem is 2 years younger than the former Cherries ace and has far more experience than him. For example, he has made 177 appearances in the Premier League to the 26-year-old's 101, and 24 in the Champions League to the City man's 0. Okay, what about their number from this season then? Surely the player who just earned a big money move is outperforming the Gunners' backup left winger. Surprisingly, that is not necessarily the case. For example, the former Bournemouth star has scored 11 goals and provided 4 assists in 22 appearances, totaling 1,909 minutes, which comes out to a goal involvement every 1.46 games, or every 127.26 minutes. The Guarulhos-born gem, on the other hand, has scored 9 goals and provided 1 assist in 24 appearances, totaling 1,022 minutes, which comes out to a goal involvement on average every 2.4 games, or every 102.2 minutes. In other words, the player Jurgen Klopp, once dubbed the talent of the century, has actually been more effective than the new City star when you break it down by minutes. Further described as a nightmare for defenders by Arteta, his numbers are arguably not a surprise. Ultimately, Semenyo is an extremely talented footballer and surely would have added a lot to this Arsenal side. However, there are plenty of other talented attackers Arteta and co can target this year, and perhaps they can continue to get goals and assists out of Martinelli. The Arsenal star Xabi Alonso wanted to sign, who left his Real Madrid reign doomed from the start. Real Madrid's failure to sign Alonso's top transfer target from Arsenal has been blamed for dooming his tenure from the start. Alonso, who left Madrid on Monday by mutual consent, reportedly made it clear to the hierarchy that midfielder Martin Zubimendi was top of his wish list. Madrid's failure to shore up their midfield with a conductor who can also lead an aggressive press is seen as a key reason why Alonso was unable to impose his ideas. Alonso had a hard time convincing the likes of Kylian Mbappe and Vinicius Jr. to buy into the collective ethos which worked so well at Bayern Leverkusen. Meanwhile, Madrid have lacked the control in midfield that Toni Kroos and Luka Modric used to bring. Spanish newspaper AS claims that Madrid had the finances to sign Zubimendi. Arsenal bought him for £60 million from Real Sociedad, but that they hesitated. Zubimendi reportedly delayed his move to Arsenal after hearing from Alonso, but Madrid's hierarchy continued to stall, and Zubimendi eventually joined Arsenal 2 weeks later than planned. Alonso is said to have privately complained that they lacked a physical presence to anchor his team, despite having star quality in Jude Bellingham, Aurelien Tchouameni, Eduardo Camavinga, and Federico Valverde. At Bayern Leverkusen, where Alonso won an invincible domestic double in 2023-24, the Spaniard had Granit Xhaka, and he was hoping to have a similar figure in Zubimendi. Alonso was sacked just 7 months into his tenure and fewer than 24 hours after losing 3-2 to Barcelona in the Spanish Super Cup final in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. The 44-year-old had come under increasing pressure due to rumors of a rift with some players and a reported misalignment with the board on tactics. He didn't have a particularly bad record. Madrid are still in the La Liga title fight and sit 7th in the Champions League phase. But the pressure at Madrid is perhaps more than anywhere else, and he has already been ousted, replaced by fellow legend Alvaro Arboa, who had been in charge of the B team. One moment that betrayed his lack of power came after the Super Cup final, where Alonso wanted his players to do a guard of honor for Barcelona, but Mbappe refused and eventually the manager backed down. Prior to the trophy presentation, the Barca players had formed a guard of honor for Madrid to go and collect their medals. It was not, however, reciprocated by Madrid after Mbappe's protests. Alonso urged Mbappe and his players to come over and give their rivals a guard of honor. However, Mbappe took issue with this and was seen throwing his hands up in the air before he walked off, with Alonso seemingly admitting defeat as he headed towards the direction of his star man. Some have suggested that this moment summed up Alonso's reign, where he has faced challenges to his authority from his own players, most notably from Vinicius Jr., who reportedly told Real president Florente Perez that he wouldn't renew his contract while the former Bayern Leverkusen boss remained. After the dust settled on Sunday's defeat, Mbappe did share a helpful message for Alonso following his sacking. "It's been short, but it was a pleasure to play for you and learn from you," the French star said. "Thank you for giving me the confidence since day one. I will remember you as a manager who had clear ideas and knows many things about football. Best of luck for your next chapter." Meanwhile, speaking after the game, Barca president Joan Laporta expressed his shock at Real's refusal to provide a guard of honor. "I'm surprised they didn't give us a guard of honor," he said. "You have to be generous and respectful even when you lose, but I understand that it must have been a really tough time. They must have been really struggling, and that's why they reacted that way." Ex-referee makes a surprising claim after Connor Bradley's injury. Good point to raise. Liverpool defender Connor Bradley is set to miss the rest of the season with the injury he sustained at Arsenal, with Gabriel Martinelli pushing him while he was on the ground. Former PGMOL boss Keith Hackett has questioned whether referee Anthony Taylor could have arrived at the scene earlier to make Gabriel Martinelli aware of the seriousness of Connor Bradley's injury at the Emirates at the Anelay.